Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon is his latest picture, his first feature film for this decade, and his first movie where he directs both his famous muses, Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro. The film follows the Native American Osage tribe in the 1920s, the richest people in the world per capita, until they begin being killed off one by one. Lily Gladstone plays Molly Burkhart, an Osage native whose family begins being picked off. Leonardo DiCaprio plays her husband Ernest Burkhart, Robert De Niro plays William Hale, Ernest's uncle, and Jesse Plemons plays Tom White, the FBI investigator who is brought in to solve the mysteries. As a fan of Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro and the kind of films they've made over the years, I have been following the project for a long while, and I became invested in the story after reading David Grann's non-fiction book of the same name which the film is based on. I thought it was great news when I heard Scorsese cast Robert De Niro as William Hale. Many of us thought The Irishman would be a send-off for the duo's partnership, their last film together. After all, the gap between The Irishman and Casino, the duo's previous collaboration, was more than 20 years. But here he was, De Niro, already cast in Scorsese's next film in a very juicy supporting role. Now, I've got an entire video dedicated to the backstory of Robert De Niro's character called Who Was William Hale? And I don't want to give away major spoilers here for those not familiar with the story, so check that video out if you want a background on Hale. But to briefly summarize, Hale was not a nice guy. He was a killer. He appears out of nowhere in the history books and builds a legitimate reputation for himself through bribery and intimidation whilst hiding sinister secrets. If you read David Grann's book, Hale is by far one of the most interesting characters. You wonder, what was going through his mind when he did what he did? Was it pure greed, hatred and prejudice? But how would that explain him saying later in life that he still considered himself a friend of the Osage people? Was he that deluded? Was this a front? Who knows, but a very interesting character for De Niro to play. Surely the most evil he has played in a Scorsese film, even considering the likes of Jimmy Burke and Max Cady. And De Niro is famously a method actor. The most famous method actor until Daniel Day-Lewis came along. There are stories of De Niro spending thousands of dollars to mess his teeth up for Cape Fear, putting on a record amount of weight for a film after being in good shape for Raging Bull, living in Sicily for months to prepare for his role as Don Corleone, and all sorts. He is even alleged to have phoned up the real Henry Hill repeatedly and asked him the most pedantic of questions about his character in Goodfellas, right down to how the real Jimmy Burke held his ketchup bottle. The point is, De Niro likes to get right into the head of the characters he plays, and those characters are dark and often twisted like Travis Bickle or Jake LaMotta. But he is able to go to places where he sees things as they do and is thus able to give an empathetic performance. He understands his characters and where they are coming from. The reason why I'm mentioning all of this is because I came across an interesting extract from a press conference from the Cannes Film Festival where Robert De Niro, in a rare instance, talks about his character, William Hale. You can see that like De Niro characters of old, he is trying to get where the character is coming from, mentioning that some of Hale's appreciation and helping of the Osage people was genuine, but he also had a sinister side to him. What is very interesting is that De Niro straight up says he doesn't understand his character. This is coming from the man who played Travis Bickle, and he's saying he couldn't understand his character in Killers of the Flower Moon. Very interesting stuff, and I think if anything, it points to how evil Hale is, how out there he is, that even a man like Robert De Niro, an actor as good as he is, just doesn't get Hale, doesn't get where he's coming from. This is a man who played characters like Frank Sheeran, who was also a killer, and had talked about his character's mind and whatnot, but it seems Hale was so out there, De Niro couldn't go there. Have a listen. You'll also hear the voices of Martin Scorsese and Lily Gladstone. De Niro was initially asked about how he was able to, like the other actors, get into the culture of the Osage nation, but at the same time take a back step because of who his character is.
Well, I don't, I don't understand how my character, I don't understand a lot about him. Because I don't understand it. But, people do things he has to be charming. He has to win people over. He has to do things to get them. Why he betrays them in this way, it's all I can do is try my best to. He has an action and tension. He goes from here to here to here. He does that with the people, and I think part of it with him, I guess, is sincere. It's just the other part where he's betraying them. There's a kind of a feeling of entitlement it's almost, I guess you could say we became a lot more aware of after George Floyd with systemic racism.
Yeah.
And so that's what it is. And lo and behold, what happened there that we never knew of while we were there was the Black Wall Street massacre.
While we were shooting, yeah.
While we were shooting.
I didn't realize that.
It's the banality of evil. It's the thing that we have to watch out for. And we see it today, of course, we all know who I'm going to talk about, but I won't say the name. Because that guy is stupid. Imagine if you're smart. Even Hale.
Yeah.
Hale was smart in many ways, and so it's something that is systemic, and that's the scary part about it. I'm reading a book now called Rat Line. It's about the Nazis that were trying to get back through to South America here and there, hiding out in Rome and so on, in Italy. It's fascinating, but it's just interesting. It's just the whole thing is it's there, and you got to really keep your eye on it.
Yeah, it's about a kind of superiority.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the Third Reich superiority, the masters. Well, I may love them, but, you know, I'm superior to them, so they're going to die anyway. I mean, that's the thinking,
Yeah,
I guess.
He felt he was loved by the people, and some people probably did love him.
Yeah.
Not looking at the other side. I still don't understand certain things.
too.
I don't know.
I've heard there were some Osage that were at his funeral,
That's right.
Yeah.
believed until the day he died.
Yeah.
And after that he was their friend, that he wasn't guilty of what he was charged of.
There you go. I mean, look with Trump. People.
Oh, you said it. You said
I
it.
hate to say it.
Say it. Don't say it. You said it. Damn.
I hate to say it. But we see what that is.
Yeah, but it's like,
And there are people who think that he could do a good job. Imagine that. How insane that is. That's all I'll say.
He was then asked if he had much control over the creative elements of his character, and he said,
Yeah, we worked on it, and then I read the book when I was told about it and wanted to read it anyway, of course, and then Leo and Marty told me that they were going to do it in another way, more about the relationship of the uncle, Hale, my character, and Ernest, Leo's character. That made a lot of sense to me. And I said, whatever you do, great, I'm in, of course. And it is much better. The book is terrific the way it is.
yeah, Grant's book. God.
But what Leo and Marty wanted to steer it in is even more a better choice for this material especially. It's not that you want the good guy to come in and save the day. We know that story. We've done it, and we've traditionally have done movies over the years where the good guy goes down south and saves the day. The good guy goes into any indigenous area, saves the day. This is, and that's all valid for the FBI in telling that part of the story,
Right,
but this is much more important, if I could say that.
So some interesting thoughts here. He brings up the evolution of the film's script where the structure was changed. He brings up Nazism, Trump, but the most interesting takeaway for me is him straight up saying he doesn't understand his character, which more than anything highlights the depravity of Hale and his actions. So what do you think of De Niro's comments? Let me know in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.